Hello everyone, SimsEclaire here and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we are building, it looks like it's another suburban home, but it's not, I promise you. The title in the left-hand corner says the horror house, but that's also, it doesn't really look like that from the outside. Basically my idea for this, I guess I should go into my idea for October first. So what I want to do for my channel on for October is, I'm a very big horror movie fan. I have been since I was young, and so I want to recreate the iconic horror movie houses and, you know, places that like where all the drama and all the scariness occurs. So I'm going to be, the first build that'll be up for it will be on Friday, and I'm going to be recreating the house from Poltergeist because I just watched that movie. And my idea is that all of these houses are in this one town. I'm kind of rebuilding Brindleton Bay with all the houses, and they're all in this one town. And there's this girl who decided that she really loved all these stories she used to hear as a kid about all these different creatures and scary things, and she decided to write about them when she grew up. Like, so she's now a horror writer, and she decided to move to this town where all of these events kind of occurred, and she's decided to write her own books about them. So she has moved into like the one house in this neighborhood that does not have a history, it does not have a horror background. It's just a plain old house kind of mixed in with the rest of the like scary houses, I guess. And so she's going to be a writer, and this is going to be her house. So the house ends up being one bedroom, one bathroom, and then like a really large office area. I figured maybe she had had a couple successful books. You know, she wrote about some different things that, you know, just came to her, and she always had this really vivid imagination. And she even had some books turned into movies, but I figured she started to kind of lose her way, I guess, a little bit. She started to kind of get famous, and she didn't really like where her stories were going. She kind of had a little bit of writer's block, so she decided to go back and revisit all the stories that she enjoyed when she was young. You know, the tall tales of the serial killer who went around on Halloween night and killed a whole bunch of babysitters, or the house that the child disappeared in and ended up in another, you know, the afterlife without actually dying. So I think she decided to revisit all those old tall tales, and she came to the town where they were inspired by, where the stories were inspired by their real life events. And now she's here, and she's going to go about and visit all the different houses and write her own stories. And that was kind of just my idea. That was the background for how I was going to go about decorating this. I mean, even if I didn't have a background, I was still going to do all of the scary movie houses, but that was kind of, I don't know, I like to have backgrounds for why I do things, especially because this is going to be, I'm literally rebuilding the entirety of Brindleton Bay. Now, you won't see all of the builds on camera. Some of them will just go up on the gallery because I only post 3 days a week, and there's 4 weeks, so that's 12 builds, but I'm pretty sure there's like 15 lots in Brindleton Bay, 15 or 16. So there's going to be like 3 or 4 builds that won't end up, unless I decide to give you guys like special videos, 1 extra video a week, which, I mean, I might, but we're getting really busy at work, so I probably won't have enough time to do that, but we'll see what happens. So there will probably be more builds up on the gallery than there will be on my channel. But I'm really excited to do this because, like I said, I do really love scary movies. So the idea of like recreating all of these houses that used to terrify me as a child in the Sims game is, I don't know, it's kind of giving me a little bit of joy. But I'm a little nervous about it too, because a lot of them, they like look like they're going to be in horror movies from the outside, and I feel like the Sims graphics, whereas I love them for my normal builds, I feel like they don't necessarily lend towards doing spooky builds. So I'm a little excited for the challenge of trying to make things look less nice looking, I guess, because when you build things in The Sims, everything just looks so nice because of the graphics, and I'm excited to try and make things look a little bit more, you know, spooky, a little bit more scary. But speaking of my October thing that I want to do, I did change my intro, and I wasn't going to tell you guys, I was going to let it be a surprise, but I was looking back on the intro that I made, and the words on it kind of flash like really quickly. So if you have an issue with flashing like flashing objects on screens, I would just skip over my intro. It's not that long. I think it's only like 20 seconds. But if you do have like an issue with flashing words or flashing lights on screens, I would just skip into, you know, like 50 seconds into my videos, or 60 seconds, like a minute into my videos, and then that way you're all done with the intro and you just get to hear my lovely voice without all the flashing on the screen, because I really like it and it really screams like horror to me. Like it's a little darker, it's a little scarier, so I liked how it looked in with the series that I'm going to be doing. But I can understand that some people don't really mesh well with blinking lights, and it's not even like really that bad, and it's not that fast either. I just wanted to warn you guys ahead of time in case that stuff like that does bother you. But now we're going on into the interior. I kind of skipped over the outside a little bit, but I'm also not done with the outside, so we're going to do the floor plan and then I'm going to go back to do some of the landscaping. I wanted to get the floor plan done first because I wanted to make sure I had enough space inside the house for everything that I needed. And if we're being honest, I probably had too much space considering this is for a one sim. Wow, this is for one sim, so I only needed one bedroom and one bathroom, and both of those are on the downstairs level, and then upstairs is going to be like a loft area where her office is, like where she does all of her writing. But I also kind of threw a whole bunch of different writing things around the house in general. So on the dining room table, I end up getting some paper clutter and stuff like that just to make it look like she's doing her research on these stories and she's trying to get all the facts right and trying to write, you know, get everything straight for her novels, and then she's gonna go visit all the houses and try and get some ideas for her next book. But going over here, this is where I put the staircase. Now, I know it's not that fancy, but I was honestly really proud of this staircase because I never ever put my staircases in between like two walls, because I hate having to finagle with the staircases in The Sims. Like if the space is too small, I usually just end up going with a ladder. So I was really happy that I decided just to stick with it and put a staircase in there, because I definitely thought that the upstairs was more of an attic. Like it wasn't initially supposed to be used for anything, but because she moved in here and she needed an office space, she decided to go ahead and convert it into her office. And I thought that the stairs we don't have them in The Sims, but I thought that it could kind of pretend to be those ones that you have to like grab from the ceiling, because I feel like every scary movie, if there's an attic, you have to grab the stairs from the ceiling, because that just adds the extra dramatic effect of them having to, you know, deal with pulling down the ladder or pulling up the ladder to get away from the scary thing. So I kind of wanted to imagine that it was stairs like that, just to kind of give it a little bit of an extra, you know, scary movie and spooky factor. And then I went ahead real quickly and I added in all of the floors and the wallpapers just to kind of plan out my color schemes. I was trying to go with dark woods and like neutral colors, so that way I could add pops of color where I needed them to match the fall style I was going for. And I went with some greens as well, because I do really like greens, and I feel like green is, well, there's green on the outside of the house, so I wanted to kind of bring that inside, but I also feel like green is one of those colors that people forget about in fall things, because like sage greens and stuff like that, like warmer tone greens, are definitely more like fall colors, and I feel like everyone always associates them with like spring and summer, because that's the color that like leaves are during the spring and summer, and then when you get into fall it's all like, oh, orange and brown and red, and then that's it. But that's not really true. My favorite color, or one of my favorite colors, is sage green, which is more of like a fall style green. So I wanted to try and incorporate that as much as possible, because if I had a house, like almost every single wall would be sage green except for my bedroom, which would be red. So, or like a brownish red, like a terracotta, because I'm obsessed with fall and I would only want fall colors in my house at all times. So that's kind of where I was going with it. And then I wanted to add some more trees, because A, Brindleton Bay has a lot of trees, and B, I really like the trees we have in the game, especially the debug trees, so I was trying to use as many of them as possible. And as you can see, I'm using only debug plants here. I usually mix a couple of debug with regular plants, but I decided just to stick with debug plants this time around, and I think I'm going to do that for all of these builds, because they look more realistic than the other plants that we have in the game, and they kind of, like, the colors for them match the fall season just a little bit better, like because they're more muted and they're less cartoony and they just, yeah, I don't know, they just look a lot better. And as you can tell, I am decorating in the fall season. I did make sure that for all of these builds I'm going to be going into the game, so that way we can get the right season before, like, it's not like I'm decorating in winter and there's like snow all over the ground or nothing looks different, because I definitely like the light overlay that we have in this game. When it comes to the fall season, it kind of just makes everything look a little bit dimmer. And I know that I'm rambling at this point, but I'm not, I don't know. I'm really excited about this build, but I'm also at the same time, I was happy with how it turned out, but it wasn't anything how I envisioned it to look as I was going for it. But I was watching, I think I was watching SimLissy build a house while I was doing this. So as I was watching her, my like build style slowly went more towards like suburban, and I just, as I was going through, and then like when her video ended, I turned it off and I turned on Gilmore Girls, because I was like, I can't keep watching this because the house is just gonna go more and more towards like family suburban living the more that I watch this. So I decided to, and then of course I turned on Gilmore Girls, which is all about a small suburban town, so then it really didn't help all that much. But I do end up liking how it looks. I think it's probably one of my favorite landscaped houses that I've ever built. And I am about to start cutting out some of the landscaping. I know I left quite a bit of it in this time around, but I got a couple of comments asking me to leave in more of the floor planning and the landscaping, so I decided just to do a little bit extra this time around. But now we're going on into the interior of the house. So this area here is decorated quite normally. It has an umbrella rack, the seasons, whatchamacallit, the temperature control thing, the air conditioning unit, and then a mirror. And then I end up giving them the Seasons Fall rug just because I felt like it. And then I go with this darker warmed wood and orange and black lamp from Tiny Living, because I thought that the orange kind of looked really nice against the rug that I chose. And then orange and black is like the traditional Halloween colors, so I thought that that kind of worked really well with the fact that this was kind of the intro to my Halloween series. And then over here in the corner, I am going to place a couple of pictures and a plant, but I was having a hard, I didn't know, because it's a really small area, so I had to make sure I had like a super tiny plant. And I was going to do like a shelving thing like the one we got from Cats and Dogs, but I thought it would just block the door too much and take up too much space, so that's why I decided to go with the plant. And I do end up using the one from Seasons. It's the like two-tiered plant that has like pieces hanging off the side. That is one of my favorite plants. I honestly really wish we had those succulents not in that stand. Like, I wish they had given them to us separate from the stand, so that way we could place them on other objects. But I do understand that that would, add a whole bunch of different things to the game, and maybe they just didn't have enough space for it. And then going over here, I used the laundry day cabinet, and I kind of flipped it around so it was just like a wooden block. And then I added a tiny TV. I didn't really think that this sim would spend a lot of time watching TV. I mean, they had their computer upstairs and they do all their writing, so I figured that they only watch TV if there was like some news about, this is gonna sound so conceited, but they only watch TV if there was news about them on, or if something happened with one of their books, or if a movie was on, like a scary movie was on that they really enjoyed. And then this area, you can see it's kind of small, but it does function. But this is where the living room is going to be. So I was having a hard time figuring out what couch I wanted to use, because this is a young adult sim, so I didn't want to go too traditional, but they're also like a huge fan of scary movies and stuff like that, and all of those houses are very traditional styled houses. So I was like, so they probably were very heavily influenced by these houses. So I kind of did a mix. I used this, I think it's called the Hipster Hugger. I think that's what it's called. It's from Base Game. I used this as the large couch, and then I also use the Nifty Knitting chairs, because I think that even though those are from Nifty Knitting, I think that they have a little bit of a like modern edge to them, just because of the way that they're designed. And then I also placed this book here because, as I said, I do place a whole bunch of different random writing objects around just to give you guys the impression that this person is a writer. And then I add a rug here. I add the Tiny Living rug, and I add it in, it's like that mauve-y color. I was initially going to do the orange and blue or the yellow and blue, because there's blue accents in the build, but the yellow was like too bright for me. I wasn't really liking it. I wish it, like, to match this build, I wish it was like an orangey color, and then I think it would have just matched better. But going over here, I'm real quickly just decorating the little TV stand that I created. Now you can tell I had to place all these statues around to kind of fill up the spaces so I could place things where I wanted them, because the TV was only placing backwards because the table I had placed backwards, so I needed to fill up all the spaces so that way I could turn the TV around. And then going into the kitchen, I use the Jungle Adventure counters. I've been using these a lot recently. Usually I was only using the Parenthood ones on my channel for a really long time, but now that I've started using these again, I'm switched over to using these all the time, and I know I'm going to get tired of them eventually and probably go back to the Parenthood, but until then I'm going to enjoy using these and their cabinets as well. The only issue I have with these cabinets in particular is that there's no, I don't know, and it's with all of the cabinets really. Now that I think about it, I really wish that we had more of a variety in what the cabinets looked like. Like, I wish we had different swatches where, like, the insides were different. Like, we had one that had cups, and then we had one that had plates, and we had some that were like double doors instead of, you know, only having those like really thin ones with the smaller doors. Maybe we had like one where it was like double of those. I don't know. I always feel like the cabinets, when you line them up next to each other, they always just look so much like the same thing, just repeated across the walls, which is why I try to place windows in my build, so that way I don't have to place too many cabinets and make it look too repetitive. But anyway, right now I'm just cluttering up the counter a little bit. I was trying to keep everything functional. I believe that there is only one functional counter, though. Now, like, looking back at this, I'm pretty sure that the one right next to the stove is the only one that's actually functional, because if I remember correctly, technically the paper towel holder that I placed there is blocking the use of that counter. I'm pretty sure that it is. It might not be. You might have two usable counters here, but I'm pretty sure that the way I placed that paper towel holder, that counter is not going to be usable. And then over here I'm just placing a whole bunch of books behind the coffee pot. I figured that this sim definitely drank a whole lot of coffee to stay up late and go visit these houses and get the full spooky effect by going at night. And then I placed the books there because I figured maybe they were looking for some inspiration, or they just had a lot of books. I mean, I placed these books over here in the corner too. I definitely imagine that they just moved into this house. It was more of like a spur of the moment decision. They packed up and they left their home in the city and they just came out here and, you know, made this rash decision to buy this large house. So they haven't quite unpacked yet, and you'll see that explored a little bit more here in the dining room. So this is a very small dining room table compared to how large this dining room is, but I end up placing a whole bunch of, you can see I'm placing some paper clutter and some boxes. I figured this was their notes about the stories that they want to write and the like tales that they're trying to be inspired by, and I'm placing some letters on the table as well. I thought maybe their like publisher was writing them, trying to figure out when their next book was going to be coming out. And then I'm trying to find some other clutter items to kind of match with the whole writing thing. I end up placing this iPad. I figured that they had a couple of different places where they took notes and they did their writing. Like, they have their main computer upstairs, and then they have their iPad here, and then I place another iPad upstairs in their office area. I thought almost maybe that they had like the computer for writing and an iPad for taking notes, and then an iPad with all of their schedules and their calendars and everything, so that way everything was kind of kept separate. So that's why they have 3 iPads. I know that that's such a weird thing for me to actually like go into depth about, like, why were you thinking about why these people had 3 iPads? I just didn't want you all to think I was crazy for placing like 3 iPads around the house. But then I'm just placing a rug to fill in the space, and then we're moving on into the bathroom. So the bathroom is a kind of oddly shaped. I even end up changing it a little bit more because I didn't think anywhere I could place the toilet it was going to be functional. So I do end up extending the bathroom by like 1 tile. It's this little 1x1 cubby off to the side of the stairs, and it makes the stairs a little bit more snug inside of the house. You're going to see me do it here in a second. and it just kind of gives me a place to put the toilet so I can make sure it's out of the way and it doesn't block anything. I'd initially considered extending the bathroom into the bedroom, but I didn't want to take any space away from the bedroom because I finally thought for once I had a properly sized bedroom. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but on the past couple of builds I've done, my bedrooms have been like kind of small, and whenever I'm trying to put side tables or decorations in them, I don't have enough space. Even for like the dressers and stuff, I've had a real hard time having enough space in my recent builds to put dressers in them. So I was really happy with the size that this bedroom ended up being. I really didn't want to change it. So you saw there, I just added a little cubby hole to put the toilet in. And then over here above the bed, I am using, there's these decorations from City Living, and they're technically magazines, but I thought maybe they could be clippings from some of her novels, or maybe they are magazine clippings and they're clippings from different critics saying things about her novels or different awards that she has won for her novels. I just thought that that was kind of a cute little thing to add. And then over here I'm adding some more books and some files as well. I definitely figured that they immerse themselves into this life like all the time. They're always doing their research, they're always investigating, they're always trying to figure out the best way to write their tales and their books. And yeah, I just thought that they were very much into their job. And you keep seeing me like stop over the movie Hangout posters. I wanted to use them in this build because they're like the Scary Movie posters, but I didn't want to place them just like everywhere in the house, because I definitely figured because they were an artist or they were a writer, they had some money, and I didn't think that they would decorate their entire house in just movie posters. But I used them up here because I thought that this was like their safe space. This is where they could really be themselves and do all their work and get all their writing done. So I do add the movie posters up here. And then this is where their desk is going to be. I figured it would be kind of nice for them to sit out and look over the town and maybe get some inspiration from people walking, in front of their house, or from like going from one place to the other, because she does live in the town part of the neighborhood. She lives right next to the vet. Now obviously that is going to change when I redo this neighborhood. I think I'm probably going to move some of the community lots around just a little bit, but just to make things a little bit more cohesive. And so over here, as you said, as I said, I'm placing the posters up here. Sorry, this is a really long video. It's not really that long, it's like 25 minutes, but I haven't done a voiceover for this long in a while, so I'm kind of stumbling over myself. I do apologize. But I placed the Midnight Massacre poster, and then also this one that looks like this cow plant is eating a scientist. I was looking for, there is another scary movie. It's like Sims of the Dead or something like that, and I couldn't find the poster for that movie, and I didn't know like why there wouldn't be a poster for that movie, so I was really confused. But I also gave them a little bit of a seating area over there. I figured if they ever had meetings, or if their like publisher ever came by, that they would sit up here and have their meeting up here instead of like downstairs at the coffee table, because this is where all of their notes would be. This is where they kept all of their information. And then I'm placing some windows over here. I was thinking about doing some more wall decorations, but I really didn't like how it was looking. I thought it just looked a little too crowded, so I did decide just to do the windows. And here you can see I was going to try and give them a laptop, because I thought that made a little bit more sense than a third iPad, but it wouldn't let me place the iPad on the chair, so I just went ahead and did another iPad. And then we're about to go outside, and the outside is pretty much very basic. It's an outdoor dining table and a little grill here, and then I also add the hose is in such a weird spot. I put the hose right here next to the door. I have no idea why your hose would be here right next to the back door, especially since you have plants like all the way in the back of your house, but that was the best place I could find to put it. And then here we're just placing that dining table I was talking about, and then a couple of gardening plots just to give them something else to do while they were here. But besides that, that is it for this build, so I hope you all enjoyed this one. If you did, please leave a like and be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all next time. Bye!